Well, as Gomer Pyle used to say, surprise, surprise, surprise. Well, not very much a surprise for most people out there, but our politicians failed us again. There was a recent congressional testimony. The commissioner of Social Security, who is about to leave his post, he's been there for a couple of years. He's done a great job, but he's about to leave. And he was asking for one last time for help from Congress to shore up Social Security, improve customer service. And what did the politicians do? Yes, they played politics and distractions. And we're going to talk about that today. If you're new to my channel, my name is Ed Weir. I ran the third business Social Security office in the country. This is also a live Q&A. I'm going to talk about that, and you have to vote on what type of cuts you want in the future from your Social Security check. And then I'm going to open it up to the floor. It looks like we've got a bunch of questions already. I'll answer any questions you have about all things Social Security, retirement, disability, survivor benefits, spouse benefits, the future of Social Security, all the rest of it. And we'll do that for about an hour and answer as many questions as I possibly can within that hour. Okay, so what are we talking about here? So, as of right now, the Congressional Budget Office, the Social Security trustees, pretty much everybody that's looked at the numbers say that we are going to get probably in 2034 a 21% cut. And maybe you'll be grandfathered in, or maybe you won't. It looks as though it's going to be across the board. So if you're receiving a Social Security check, expect in 2034 that to be cut by 21% as of right now. If some of the proposals that are out there, political proposals out there, if they get instituted, then it's going to be worse. We're talking about a 33% cut, and about 3 years earlier in 2031. So it's not this next presidential term, it's the one after that. So we're looking at about a 33% cut if some of the policies that are proposed actually pass. Or if we do the right thing, then we can shore up Social Security for us and our kids and our grandkids and all the rest of it. But we need to choose what we want to do. And one of the reasons that, let's say, we can't have nice things is that we keep falling for these tricks these politicians throw at us. They love to distract us for their own gain. And that's exactly what they did during this congressional testimony. They just started talking about a tad bit relevant, but essentially irrelevant things that are just distractions. And why can't we stop these cuts? Is because of these distractions. So let me go through and talk about each one of these. The politicians at this particular congressional committee said, well, we would like to give you some more money so you can, pick up your phones and adjudicate your claims and, help people with survivor benefits and disability and all that kind of stuff. But, we gave you money before. Sure, it wasn't enough to even cover, the increased cost year over year. But didn't you have this one guy in this one office in the country that did this one thing? Isn't some of your people, teleworking at home, and shouldn't they be in the office helping people? And it was just a distraction. I ran the third business Social Security office in the country, and this whole, excuse me, old Marine Corps sergeant here, this old BS about telework. Management can manage and make employees efficient, whether they're next to them or whether they're in the next office or whether they're in the next town. I can tell you by personal experience, every single day we assign appointments to people. So you're a claim specialist, you get 7 appointments, 8 appointments, 10 appointments today. And whether you're next to me or you're 5 miles down the street, you still have to fulfill those appointments. If you're on the phones, you have to log in at the phones at 9 o'clock and then log off 4 o'clock when the phones end. And in real time, I can tell whether you're right next to me or 5 miles down the street, whether you're answering those calls. So this whole thing about telework, and that's why this politician would say, well, we're not going to give you the money that actually you, the public out there, paid for. All those decades you paid for your FICA taxes, you paid for your retirement, and you paid for help getting your retirement and survivor benefits and disability. But the politicians are playing politics and these distractions, and they don't want to give the Social Security Administration that 1.2% that was supposed to be given to them so they can help you get your benefits. And that's why I came out of retirement to help you get your benefits, because Social Security, unfortunately, is not doing the right thing. They're not able to because they don't have the staffing. 50-year low in terms of staffing. All right. So efficiency, yes, every organization could be more efficient, but we're talking nickels and dimes, and the commissioner needs dollars. Um, Another distraction that I see all the time in my comments on YouTube is, well, if the trust fund wasn't stolen, or it wasn't given to this country, or whatever the case may be, that is all BS as well. Sorry. Just look at the Social Security trustees report. There's last year there's 2.7 trillion in there. It's in the bank. Full faith and credit the United States. And a lot of people say, well, there you go. Well, every country in the world, that is the safest investment in the world. Your 401k probably has treasury securities in there. So that money is being paid back. Last year it was 2.7 trillion. This year it's about 2.6, because $70 billion was paid out. So last year, 5 or 6% of your check came from the treasury, from the trust fund. So this whole distraction that politicians are playing, kind of the old Elmer Fudd type thing. You're saying, I'm gonna get that rabbit, and that rabbit is the trust fund. But the trust fund is sitting right there. It's being used like it was supposed to. The problem is it wasn't enough because of the demographics, less kids paying into it in the future, and the fact that there's a cap. You and I, we pay FICA all year long. If you're making over $168,600 this year, you stop paying FICA, Social Security FICA. You pay Medicare, but you stop paying the Social Security FICA. So you and I pay FICA 365 days of the year. Someone like Warren Buffett or Elon Musk or whoever, they pay FICA for the first 17 seconds of January 1st, and they're done with FICA. That's why the trust fund is not the amount it should be, not because it was stolen or was given some other place. That's a distraction, and that's why we can't have nice things, is because we're distracted on that versus what we really need to do to have a serious conversations to save things. Same thing with illegals. Social Security money is not given to people that are here illegally. I can tell you 100%. In terms of Social Security, your state welfare program might give out benefits. Some other federal program might give out benefits to people that are here illegally. Whatever the case, we're not talking about that here. We're talking about Social Security benefits. If you come into the Social Security office, you have to be a U.S. citizen, or you have to have a legal status in the country. And I've taken hundreds of thousands of claims. Here's an example. This was kind of a tragic example, but I had personally, and people that worked at Social Security throughout the country, I'm sure, have had people that have come in that have been in this country for decades and decades and decades, served in the Vietnam War, and they come in 62, 65 in order to get their Social Security benefits that they paid into. We were not able to give them those benefits because they were not in the country legally. A lot of these were from Canada. They came over as young kids. Their family brought them over, but they didn't do their paperwork correctly. They always thought they were U.S. citizens, but they weren't. They never did things correct. Even they went to the Vietnam War. They got a Bronze Star or a Silver Star in the Vietnam War, but they couldn't prove their legal status in the United States. For those people, they finally had to go to the INS and get it corrected and everything like that. Once they got their legal status, then they would come back and get their money. But in order to give out benefits from Social Security, when you type something, if you go into some application online and it's got a little red line there, it says, hey, you have to fill out this category to go to the next page. To submit your application online, you have to fill out, your date of birth, you have to fill out your phone number or something like that. And until you fill out that little red light, the highlighted area, you can't submit your application. Exactly the same thing with Social Security application. PCOM, PCAX, MCS, that's the internal program that Social Security uses. If that person is not a citizen, you have to put in the A number. You have to confirm it. You get the little green card, put it under a black light. If it looks suspicious, you have to do a save verification, talks to the INS, the United States, the new name, USCIS, to confirm that person is actually in the country legally. And then you can go ahead and go to the next page and adjudicate the claim. So this whole thing about Social Security money, retirement money or something going to illegals, again, that is a distraction that politicians use to change the subject so they can get what they want, kick the can down the road, and eventually get the cuts and eventually possibly privatize Social Security and give it to their buddies on Wall Street. And then they get out of Congress and they go work for their buddies on Wall Street and make tons of money and they're all happy and laughing all the way. International. Another thing out there why we can't stop these cuts is that people say, well, if we stop giving money to this country or that country or that country, okay, then that's a completely different issue. That's not the Social Security money. That's not Social Security trust fund. The trust fund is not given to one other country. The general revenue budget, that we're $36 trillion in debt, that obviously, if you want money to stop going to those countries, then okay, that's fine. But do not tie it to Social Security because when you do, you're falling for the distraction and you're essentially voting for a 33% cut in your benefits or a 21% cut in your benefits. So people that fall for these distractions are by default voting for a cut in their benefits. So definitions. I see this all the time. I say, you're entitled to this. This is an entitlement. This is a benefit. And people, again, distractions on the definition of words. An entitlement. It's not an entitlement. I earned it. Google entitlement in the dictionary. There's several different definitions of entitlement, and one of them is a legal thing where you're entitled to those benefits. You pay for it. If you fulfill certain criteria, you are eligible to receive those benefits, which is another legal term used in the insurance industry. So we're getting distracted by the definition of words, and the politicians are loving it. They're laughing all the way, and they're going to be laughing to the bank. And then there's the political game. Well, it's the Democrats' fault. It's the Republicans' fault. It's the conservatives' fault. It's the liberals' fault, or whatever the case may be. It's everybody's fault. Is they didn't do this thing. We knew this was crunch time about 20 or 30 years ago. We've been kicking the can down the road. This next administration is essentially our last effort to stop these cuts. So if we keep falling for the politicians' distractions, their magic tricks about, hey, look over here, don't look over here, then you're essentially voting for a 21% cut or a 33% cut. And then that's kind of karma on you, but you're taking the rest of us down. So it's unfortunate, but we need to get serious about solutions. And I've talked in several videos about the possible solutions to avoid the cuts. But in order to do that, we need to have the political will, and we can't have the political will without having a serious conversation. Okay.